budget hearing. I'd like to turn the floor over. First of all, recognize my chairman, Senator Hobson, and I'd like to turn it over to Executive Director McCraney for presentation. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. I've got a couple of people with me. Well, four of us. So Crystal Thompson, Chief Financial and Chief Administrative Officer, Morgan Middleton. She is the legal counsel, keeps me out of the ditches. And then Clayton French is the Deputy Director of MEMA proper itself. So we'll just jump right into page 2, and I'll just kind of rock and roll and go through some what's happening in the land of emergency management outside what happened this morning. So federal individual assistance programs has changed. We've talked about that. Just bet on the game. Well, in emergency management, you got to have a primary, alternate, contingency, emergency gateway to get there. So let's rock and roll. So individual assistance has changed. In the past, SBA was the initial person that someone who got damage to their home went and saw, and they would have to apply for the loan and then get either a yes or a no. And in some cases, they got no, you're not qualified to get a loan, but they did qualify for services on the other side into FEMA. But once you get a letter in the mail that says no, a lot of people just, okay, I'm gonna do it myself. And they turn around and go and do other things. And there's some high standards there. Now it is a 1-800 register number, and you don't have to go through SBA. SBA can be a backhanded loop, a forward-handed. It's almost like you apply for everybody at the same time now. And we saw a great uptick in our cost of the 25%. And that's kind of we think we have a solution for that. And I'm not saying that those individuals might not have qualified and should have gotten more in past disasters, but it was just like a gatekeeper. There was a big dog there and nobody would just go on to the next step. So that just kind of a real initial on individual assistance, the summary, how that expanded eligibility has hit. And we're 25% due at invoice. The state of Mississippi signs on individual assistance on the ONA, other needs assistance. That's where we sign an agreement. We're going to pay 25% in those. And we'll show a little bit later what that difference of that number is. And so when they submit it to us, we get hit with a bigger bill than we've ever been hit before. You and I had a great conversation about that on the coast earlier this year, and we didn't know how it was going to affect us. Well, now we do. It's gonna definitely pick that up. So that's kind of the simplest version I can put out there of how individual assistance has changed. Just opening that floodgate a little bit more. So I'm on the page 5 that talks about the Mississippi individual assistance stats. So if you look over on the left-hand side, under disaster, I've got Zeta, Ida, Rolling Fork, Lewin, Moss Point, and then 4790, that storm. And so look at your ONA amounts. I mean, Zeta, 3.3 million. Okay, well, I owe 25% of that. Ida, then Rolling Fork. Okay, that one was a lot bigger storm. But then come down to 4790, which is $11 million in ONA. That is a 80% jump in registers that they got those services from FEMA, and then I'm due to put that 25% of the quarter in the pot.
Director, excuse me, was that 4790? Was that a series of tornado events, or what was the disaster for that?
You know, I knew you were going to ask me that.
The April when we had 4 or 5 long tracks that went through, but by standards, and it wasn't a huge storm event.
It was only 6 counties, but they were in the metro area, Hinds County and other. Hinds County never qualifies for anything but an individual assistance disaster, just because their threshold is so high that they seldom ever get to do that. So this time, they did. And there's a lot of people at disaster centers. They were there.
And Senator, we didn't think that was even going to make the threshold for disaster.
No, we did not. And it made it, and to a shock to us. And then You think about that, only 6 counties right here in the central part of the state, Madison, Hines, others. $11 million in ONA. Just now the housing was 20 million. I didn't have to pay any cost share on that, only the other needs assistance, which, you know, provides a car if your car was crushed by a tree, et cetera, burial expenses and things of that nature, inside furniture, you name it.
So on this O&A amount, did we have to pay 25% of that?
Yes,
They do.
yes, sir.
So another $3 million or something.
Correct. What they do is, each month FEMA will just send us a bill.
Yeah.
And we just turn around and cut it out of the disaster trust fund.
Okay. And I just want to clarify, because I know that you and I've we talked about this when I saw that change, and I called y'all
Right.
on this as well. But Chairman Briggs, this is a big change in federal policy on how to apply for it. And you said that you may have a way of trying to curtail some of this, which I'm very interested to hear that. But these were just small events, and if the feds do not change this O&A policy, that number is going to be much, much, much bigger annually for smaller storm events. God forbid we have a significant storm on the coast that spreads inland, because that's where the O&A is going to come in, and we're going to see a huge number on that. So I am, I'm sad to hear that, but this could be a significant change in how we budget for it.
Correct. It's hard to budget for.
Definitely, it's going to be there. You know, when you look at it, it's disaster, and this is where it hits you. It's an individual assistance. It's not like I'm rebuilding a bridge or strengthening one, but the food, water, baby formula, emergency supplies, immediate housing. I mean, when you get into those things that household furniture, you lost everything out of your house. But that, I don't believe, was mostly the case in that small sector storm, when we did not visit enough houses, what I thought, but there was a lot of registrants let in, and it made it past the gate. And then when FEMA pays their part, they hit us with the bill on the backside. So Crystal's done some great work with how do I not run out of money in the middle of the year in a disaster trust fund if I have a couple of these back to back? I have a bigger hurricane and other. So we've been asking, talking with the LBO and others to add some legislation into the disaster trust fund, allowing the agency for additional funding, or allow line of credit that I can just tap into for O&A only. I have a bill from FEMA, it is due, and we pay that, because I think the mean straight, as far as what we ask for every year to refill the disaster trust, I think we've got, through the ups and downs, we've kind of come across, here's what it normally takes us to do, fill our tank up back to here, and we can make it through the other side. So I think that's possibly a way to keep one of these smaller storms, 6 counties, that 11 million compared to 2 million in another storm, could keep us from running into a negative or depleting the disaster trust if we have a couple of hurricanes back to back, et cetera, et cetera. And it would only be used in that sense, O&A only. That would be the only receipt that could go in there to get that evened out. And then we would report that back at the end of the year when we come to you. And that would keep that disaster trust available to do what it's supposed to do.
Okay,
Just
so
an
I
idea.
understand the solution, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself and getting ahead of but what do we do to curtail or to make sure that the O&A requests are legitimate and actual storm related? Because that's been the problem from day one, is there's no accountability. It's someone shows up and says, I lost my microwave, my refrigerator, and my big screen TV due to a lightning strike, and they cut a check for it.
And they register, and then FEMA goes out, looks at the residence. Okay, it was damaged somewhat. And hey, there's a refrigerator on this block somewhere, but I mean, didn't necessarily get sucked out to the roof.
It's basically damage assessments,
And
and FEMA will go out and verify.
This is.
And I don't know if they actually go out, once we got a declaration, that team that comes in doesn't necessarily go out to only the residences which we used in the deck request. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So there, more people can register than what we looked at and what Hines County EM director looked at for the initial assessment that goes in. Then you open up a whole county population. Oh, I got wind damage.
Chairman Hobson asked if there's a bill pending that has the disaster recovery code sections in it. And that's my bill that I've got for ITS and
Yes.
wireless.
Yes.
That's.
Yes, sir. It's opened.
It
Yeah,
is.
so it's in another bill. All right,
But it's also, we get an opportunity each year to look over what is it we're going to agree to pay for? Is it glassware? Is it, furnishings? Is it those? And
does the state have discretion at that?
We can check what we want and check what we don't want to do. And there may be some cleaning up to where, all right, we're going to get you the basics of a roof over your head, 4 walls, get you a TV for situational awareness, news and other things, water, way to cook your meals. And that's in a place to lay your head. And that's it. We're not going to rebuild the 3-car garage and things of that nature and try to build.
Or a
it.
70-inch TV? I mean,
Maybe
can
a
we,
32.
So
But,
there are limits. We get a list of those common commodities that are claimed, and we put price values to those not to exceed. Now, in this specific disaster, it was so huge, I think there was only one max grant for ONA. So it was a lot of little payments to survivors.
all right, so I think y'all remember this, and Director McCraney, I don't know if you were there, Clayton, I think you were, during the Hattiesburg storms, the Hattiesburg tornadoes back in 11, 12.
I was there for the 16 or 17 model. I ran that one.
Okay, okay, well, what we did is we ended up taking all of the individual assistance applications and putting them on a map and then overlaying the track of the storm.
Right.
And we found that there were a lot of requests for repairs on O&A from households that were nowhere near.
2 storms ago,
Those
2
tracks.
years ago type.
Right.
Yes.
So are we able to use some of the data collection
Yes.
technology that that you have available to then go and demonstrate to FEMA which ones that they need to go work on, or can
So
we?
part of
do
the
an audit?
challenge is the public information to be able to get that from FEMA. Once they take in a client per se, they ask for all kinds of pertinent personal data. So we can get that and lay that out.
It's a 3-month process to get data from FEMA on one of our citizens that applied.
Well, look,
We
we'll
got
talk,
the loan.
I
We
want to
got,
talk about that later. I want to stay on your budget, but we've got to find a way to somehow put guardrails around O&A because that could.
We have the methodology with the crisis track. We're using the 911 addressing and things of that nature when we do ours. So we can fly it and we can say
All right,
it
so
was or was not within that path.
I interrupted you and you were going into mitigation.
Yeah, we're going to jump to the next page. So looking at what the funds that we were given, the first thing is since 2016, these are all mine. That's bad, isn't it? These are all my disasters since I was here at the agency. So $94 million has been locked in mitigation funding and projects throughout the state of Mississippi. If you look over just to the right, that red column over there, the expenditures are 6.7. So even though we lock it in, not necessarily is all those funds utilized. And I can see there's a couple of reasons why. Just work through some things in Rolling Fork and some other communities. They have to pay the 100% of the project, then get reimbursement for the 25% on the backside. So if you're saying, okay, a $5 million safe room, okay, well, that's going to cost me a little bit 1.5, 1.4. All right, well, no, you've got to pay the full 5 as the locals, and a lot of money's going away. They'll sign that they're going to do it, but when it comes down to the end, that small community is like, we don't have it in the budget. We just cannot do it. So there's about 4.7 million in the
housing fund. When Rolling Fork hit, y'all gave us, appropriation for the housing fund. We're in the process of wrapping that up, and there will be around 4.7 million between that, maybe a little less than 5 left in that fund. So what we're requesting is to have that money moved to the mitigation account as a start, so we can start matching on mitigation. That way we can actually keep some of these federal funds.
So we've got an opportunity to take 4.7 million and we can turn it into 14.7, so much for mitigation projects. And that's whether I'm looking at a state park where the dam's about to leak. We fixed the one Legion Lake down off Simpson County a few years back. That would have been a bad 49 experience where both lanes would be gone. You'd have to go all the way in Louisiana to come up here to go to work. So I think it's an opportunity. The money is there. We have used it for the housing fund. We were very fast in what we did. And so there is a plus there. I'm asking not to just sweep that back in and call that closed, but we could take those funds, the 4.7, and make about 18.8 off of. I mean, it's a heck of an opportunity for impacted communities to help them with a period of the match. We do the match in PA. We do a 12.5 with the locals. And we do have in our legislation the ability to front load to 50% of the 75%. I can forward and watch that money closely with some of our poor communities, and they get an invoice, and we can keep that going and help them instead of them having to pay all of it up front. So we've got a couple of methodologies that if we just had the funding to be able to do that for them, and also some good state projects as well.
So if you see on page 11, it'll show you the amount down at the bottom, 25%. So that's what the full match would be. But if you take half of that, which is what we were looking to do the state 12.5% match, like it's done in public assistance, by adding that 4 million to the mitigation account, that will help us get towards a goal of being able to do some match for the counties.
And I hate to turn money back in, especially after a disaster. And that's what these are all disaster-driven funding models for communities. And that 23 million gives you the full 94 out there, but we don't have that in our funding stream at this time. So I'm asking, can we try this one? Let's see how this works, and then we'll see if we can lock in some more in the next round, or whatever the state might want to do for that. But I hate sending money back once we've got it in hand down here, locked in for Mississippi only.
Okay. Is that in your comment on mitigation for right now?
Yes, that's it. I'm done. Headed to the
Okay.
budget page. I'm on 13. I know I slung a lot of errors your way, didn't I, sir?
Well, no, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it right now. I know that there's some questions, and while the chairman's still here, I need to have another discussion with you on a general topic of dams.
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of
There
agencies.
is over 4,400 that I look at with the guy at DEQ over dam safety. I want
Yep.
that title.
But we also have a lot of
And
state agencies
we
and federal
have-
agencies that are somehow involved in oversight or whatever. And it seems to me like we've got some issues in the north part of the state.
Right. Yeah, yes. I'm on.
Okay, use your mic if you don't
No more,
mind.
no more
So-
comments about that one, but yeah, Arca Butler we're very familiar with. They went after the emergency funding because that's the only way they could get it out of a 8-year funding loop, so they could get into emergency funding. It really wasn't gonna offload, but anyway, yeah, the Corps has the funding for that in hand, so to speak. But if there has to be some enhancements or something on the state side, then you're looking at, we've got 94 million that we pay 25% that could possibly go for some ancillary projects on that to mitigate it even further.
Go back to what you said, the Corps has what in hand?
They have the security emergency funding. for Arca Butler. When they did that false emergency, was it a year and a half, 2 years ago now? And everybody thought it was going to bust and wipe out all of Central and South Mississippi. It was not the case. It was the case that the Corps needed to get on that project quicker because of a future possible problem, but not the current problem, just to get into emergency funding. So they had to declare an emergency, and then the radio, TV stations went with it. And before I knew it, and well, it is because we want that funding. But I said, is it busting right? No. Is it going to bust tomorrow? No. They've managed it fairly well, but it's been a public relations nightmare on the federal side. What did you really mean by that? And working with them on the backwater pumps, I know what emergency funding request is, and that's kind of what they did on that one.
Is there any way that this agency, DEQ, and the Corps of Engineers could get together and hold a press conference to somehow just, let everybody know this is what we have at hand?
They've terrified the people in North Mississippi. There's no doubt about it.
DeSoto,
Yes, sir.
Tate,
Yes, sir.
Tunica, Coahoma, Quitman.
Agreed.
I mean, you're talking about 5 counties there that would be
They're waiting for
impacted
any moment to be washed away, like, oh, brother, where art thou?
any moment.
Absolutely.
Is there any way that this agency could get with DEQ, the Corps, and at least hold a press conference up there?
If the Corps won't do it, I will. Myself and DEQ, I'll call Chris, and these are our citizens.
And our board of
And,
supervisors, all the boards of supervisors up there,
All the EM managers.
you'll make a commitment with me. I will spearhead it if you.
All of the EM directors in those counties and whatnot, we have had numerous online phone calls with them, and we all really know the deal. And it's sad that it had to go about that way, but the original one scared a lot of people. And they continue to live in that fear, thinking that it might.
And then you have another sector that goes, the best crappie fishing lake in the world was drained for what? It was an emergency, or was an emergency, or was a semi-emergency? And that's,
To get 2-year funding. Yes, sir.
thank you for that commitment.
Roger that.
And I will get with you. And please, I'm always do it.
I'm ready.
Thank you.
I've had my speech written 3 or 4 times. And like I said, we did involve, the Corps got a very good conversation from me, I thought. They understood where we stood and what we wanted to see in the future, and don't get out there ahead of me or any of the emergency managers, because it caught us off guard. And that's not what the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan in the state of Mississippi calls for. I called their hand on it, and I said, here's what you'll do in the future. And then we talked with every emergency manager and assured them, here's the way they're having to go about it. They will call it that. It's not that. This is what it is. This is real life. So, but we'll make the roundtable again.
Are we talking about any kind of adjustment to your budget for something like this to happen?
There will probably be a special session if you wanted me to work on Arca Butler. That would have to be a full. That's going to be a big price tag. That's why they went the emergency route, but not really an emergency.
But would it be in conjunction with the federal government?
That would be up to leadership in the state of Mississippi. We can hire the same contractors, but the Corps probably has the authority to approve or disapprove on Arca Butler because they use it as a leveling of water, slowing water down, speeding water up,
That's why we
as
built.
possibly a flood control measure. So they probably own a lot of the rights to that land that I probably don't own.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Senator McClennan's been very passionate about this over the last couple of days, just trying to help his people up in his district. And I completely understand the issue. And what we have seen over the last couple of days is that we have Soil and Water Commission boards. We've got DEQ, we've got we've got the Department of Military, all these people that touch dams somehow, some way, both private and public. And now's not the time for us to discuss in great detail on this, but it just seems like there should be a better coordination of effort for us to know how we can best go about in maintaining or managing And I'm looking for all things on the table to say, this is the better way of doing it, more efficient way of doing it than way we're doing it today.
I would agree.
Okay, so we'll do that. Now, I will like you to go over to your budget side and we'll knock this out real quick.
Um, looking at page 13, I believe, yes, 13. I had to look on hers, make sure I was on the right one. As you look at the funds that we have, general funds, the grant funds, what we've asked for on the total side, the only anomaly that we really have is a 722 budget where we have some drone funding in there. The feds will not come off of not flying any Chinese, Japanese. We did get a 1-year waiver from the state of Mississippi, and we definitely do appreciate that. Now, I can fly those drones into the dirt, but to be able to buy the replacements for them, a vehicle just wears out at some model. And then these birds are getting a lot of flight time. We are doing some great missions in the state of Mississippi, whether it's helping put out the tire fire in Jackson, just to find the infrared technology, show you where the heat's coming from. Don't spray on stuff you've already put out. Let's spray on something that's burning. To get in and out of there, as well as finding individuals and flying those other sites. So we're asking for that to be in here because the American-made or the non-covered states, countries that we can actually buy drones from, they're just a little bit more expensive than the smaller DJI birds, and the flight time's not as good as the DJIs, but we can deal with that as we do. But I want to have that available, because I have a drone pilot or two in all 9 districts, 83 counties in the state. They're there, and they're able to fly at a moment's notice to do anything in the state of Mississippi, whether it's police request or whether it's another fire department request or whether it's a lost child, silver alert, you name it. They're able to go out and make those flights, and working with that one person EM director or a small police department that does not have a pilot, they just don't have the funds to do it. Our guys fly a lot, all of them do, and they're very, very, very good at it.
If I may jump in here, y'all will see in the state support special fund column, under budget 721, the 11 million you'll see under subsidies. That includes the 4.7 million we're requesting to be transferred from the housing fund for mitigation. And then the additional amount would represent a request to go into mitigation for that. Budget 722 at the bottom, the state support special, you see the 635, that represents the drone amount that it would cost to replace all the drones. And then the 2 million, the 7 million, that would go into the disaster trust fund. We average about anywhere between 8 million to 9 million a year, what we pay out of the disaster trust fund. And that represents my request to go into that.
I call it an 8.5. That's a full tank of gas for the year, about 8.5 to 8.7. And we would kind of, that's the meme. That's why we want to do the ONA separately. That might hit me. I can make it almost a full year with that. So on the next page, I asked y'all last year to please exempt from me from taking any pins that we were going to try to fill them. So here's kind of here's the numbers. So if you look at where we were last year, January, we had 34 openings. We now, as of December, we filled a couple of more. They're going to be coming on in a couple of days. We'll be down to 20. So, but that has a lot to do with it. We had new hires, total new hires is 42. We separated 32 employees, we lost 10. 84 job announcements, but one of the big numbers I'm circling is 29, and that is the promotions at MEMA. So you keep that person longer. You keep that historical information that they have of working disasters and all the things that we do within a year. So I think we did a very adequate job of the announcements and the hires and the internals. So we've made over a 58% hit on that open rate. So we're asking again to allow me to keep moving toward that magic number. Next area is your, so what did I do last year? Gentlemen, y'all gave me a lot of funds. So we're right at page 16, severe weather, 24, 25, tornadoes in 23. If you look, the green highlighted numbers are what's reimbursed by FEMA. And then the state share is that orange. And I'll call the other one down there, the reimbursement in Q is kind of peach colored. So out of the total funds, 8 million, we've gotten the federal share 5.6 reimbursed. And we've only got 54,000 coming in the queue. So out of that one, we're running a pretty good rate of bringing back in those funds that are expended and those that are eligible for reimbursement. The next one, 24, 25 March, tornadoes, same kind of numbers there. The green is what we've already been reimbursed, and we've got a lot in the queue coming our way. And if you shake those numbers out, it's going to be, 7 million on the federal share, and then 9, and we've got about 2.2 on the state side share.
So this is the housing fund that I mentioned. That was 7 million that went into that account. And so once our state share is done, I'm expecting it to be around 4.7.
So that's where we want to transfer those funds that are already there. Let's use those on some mitigation projects. Good possibility. Page 18, City of Jackson water crisis. We're getting very, very close on calling this one. What's in the queue and what's the federal share is about 5.5. The state share is 4.6. We think that we've got a few more things to put in that once FEMA opens back up again, put back in the queue. Probably going to get out of here with about the state owing total cost for the state would be $3.5 million for the entirety of the City of Jackson water crisis.
Because you'll be able to recategorize some of the state share component.
And
into
that
federal?
coming back in, we feel like it's going to shake out at about 3.5 of total cost of what we out of this 10 number, if you back it down.
Okay.
Next page is COVID-19. We started out with about 244 million in block number 1. CARES Act, block number 2, 53 million to cover some of the obligated cost. Block number 3 just comes straight down, 150 million in FEMA reimbursements as of January of this year. And then block 4, FEMA reimbursements projected in the queue as they're coming out. But this is one disaster that all 50 states and territories had. So we're all competing for time, and they have a private contractor that's doing a lot of this work. So this is not a fast pace, but we think that we're right now at 24 million. That's about a 90% recoup rate. And that was 100% on most things, but that's a pretty good rate. And we think we can chisel that away just a little bit more. So that's the end of that. I did want to talk about the 3 storms that we had here lately. The ones we just talked about with the mitigation, with the 7 counties, 29 counties, and 6 counties. We've got CBDR money coming into. The announcement came out about 2 weeks ago. That should be hitting MDA shortly. It's going to be $134 million, almost $135 million for job training, workforce development, loans, grants to businesses, restoring housing, infrastructure damaged, wastewater facilities, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to hit MDA's queue, and I've already talked with them to tell them it's coming, and we're both ready to see that shake out and get down the road with it. Non-congregate sheltering for Rolling Fork, we're down to 3 people, 3 families, that's it. And they are moved to another city and other places, so they're about to be out of our hook. That was 48, 55 hotels in 3 different cities. That was a long one. The December storms that we just had, 28, 29, we've got a qualification for SBA declaration, Oktibbeha County and Wayne County. That will also get the contiguous counties around those 2. That press release went out just, I believe, last night or this morning, and we'll be getting ready to process to DLOCs, disaster recovery centers, for SBA to handle that coming up in the next 2 weeks. So without further ado, that's that's me in a nutshell, where we've been, what we've been doing. I think we've been very good stewards of the state's money and purpose. And I believe we accomplished our mission, found some ways to get more for the buck, so to speak. And we would like to reinvest that into the state. And I think I'll just go back and ring the bell. That 94 million of mitigation dollars is just a lot of money to let go back. And to enhance the community, to keep something from happening again, $1, they say a mitigation prevents $6 of work we got to do later on in a disaster. And we've seen it happen on the coast. It did a great job. We can have slots on the machines going about 24 hours after a Cat 1, 2, almost a 3 comes through. We can get it back up and rolling, and Mississippi's back to business. And I think that's just a testament to that was 100% mitigation money. And so it was easy to take very advantage of that. So now we've just got to do a little bit of work on that 25. And I think we can put some safe rooms by schools and some of these districts that don't have them. And do some very good work. So per anybody's questions.
So let me ask, do y'all have questions? Any questions? Okay. HMGP, any opportunities to get to apply for any new HMGP programs that we can help with Commissioner Cheney's efforts to provide for mitigation program?
You talking about the Mississippi Home or program with the
Yeah.
roofing and whatnot?
Yeah, for the coastal regions, it would be.
You and I have,
roofing.
I went to the first meeting of that when he had on the coast. Alabama has a Alabama Homes project that has got some real
Strength in
good
Alabama homes, yes.
strength going on there that has really dropped the rates because the insurance companies have come back.
Right.
They're coming back asking, hey, we want to reinsure these people now because that roof is up to that platinum or gold standard. And it's really made a huge difference. I'll have to look at the funders and just make sure I can look at these current ones that are out there. If we're going to let them go away, we might can hook some of them that could qualify into that program that could enhance it even more and allow
Yeah, if I
those individuals
understand,
to
if I
certify that
understand
roof.
the just the contextual side that I've received from the Department of Insurance and the commissioner, they're also looking for inland areas to help with some safe rooms and some retrofits of existing homes for inland areas that is not roof related. It's just more of what we've done, what you've done already through other federal grants. But I want to see if there's any monies that are available to help specifically with that purpose. And you know what you're doing, you know what the contracts are required to do. And I'd like to see if first of all, my question is, has there been any coordination with the Department of Insurance with respect to those safe room grants that they are proposing and comparing that to the grant programs that you have managed?
I haven't yet, but I will.
Okay.
We put in 122 safe rooms, individual safe rooms.
Right.
At about the reimbursement rate of about, if you buy a $6,000 one, you're getting about 3,700 back, right in that number. We've got 103 applicants that have already been reimbursed out of that. And then we've got 253 in the queue waiting on approval. And we're about to open up another session of grants for the safe rooms. It's been a great uptick in it. I think it's a great opportunity for the individual to invest some of their money in keeping their family safe and making that great. And then also putting some Fed money in there as well.
Are you seeing homeowners that are doing this on their own accord and doing this because of the safety factor that it provides to them? They're spending that money and without having the a commitment for reimbursement?
They're spending $7,500 to $8,000 up front, hoping that as they put in their application and we've gone out, done the pictures, 4 sides, you name it, all the criteria that we have to do, whether they get it or not, the majority of them are saying, we're going to do it anyway. But it'd be nice if I got reimbursed for it, I could put that into something else.
And how many years have you been working on that project or working for the safer safe rooms?
We started initially doing the administrative about a year, almost 2 years ago, and then we executed. And between when we did the safe room project 10, 12 years ago and now, the rules changed, even though we weren't told that the rules changed. So we had a hubbub. But now we've got a very repetitive call us, put in an application. We're out there. We take the pictures. We do a lot of work for the individual. Then they put in all the information. And some of them are 9 months.
So are
and
you
they've got it.
checking, are you inspecting those structures to make sure that they were built
Oh,
to
yes,
whatever that standard is?
yes, they are
Is that an
built to standard.
IBHS standard?
It
or-
is, it is. And we go out and we check and we have to affirm that it is that standard. It has to pass a final inspection so that these 253 are waiting on that approval. They're in the ground ready. We got to go and certify that they put in what they said they were going to put in. They did spend the money and then send that off to FEMA.
How much does it cost MEMA to perform that, that compliance check?
I would say it's
Per
nominal
number?
because
Per structure?
if I have to go to DeSoto County, I'm going to let the AC in DeSoto County who works in that county go out there and do that inspection, send that information back to Wade, the officer in mitigation. I'm not traveling up to one and back. And we did in the beginning, we went up there and spent in nights and hotels and to really get this program, get it hammered out, all the lingo, everything that could go wrong probably did. And so we've really got it smoothed out now and the process is pretty much lickety split. And it's been taken advantage of by the individual homeowners. And then I think it's just a great opportunity to, hey, you do the work, then we have a way and some of this 94 million out there to be able to do that.
Can you just, and I'm not going to hold you to it, but I would like for you to give me some empirical data to show this.
I'll show what
I would like to know as a percentage of the overall cost for the homeowner, as well as the amount of money that has gone in and that have been provided through, was that through HMGP?
Yeah. And
Or
it's,
was
and it's,
that,
and it's
where's the
done
other
through our
percent?
mitigation department, which, you know, that we also file for reimbursement for that person doing that job. And
but as a total percent of cost, I
We'll-
would like to know what
we'll
it
roll that up.
cost MEMA to administer that mitigation program.
Roger that.
You're talking about just the safe room, sir.
Yes.
We can do that.
Can you scale that up?
I can.
I'm not, I mean, of course, you would have to have additional resources. I understand that part. But as far as the program itself, it's scalable.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
Okay.
you got people working on some projects. When they're finished, they can come back and I can slip
Alright.
and slide some of those mitigation folks around.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything? Y'all have anything else? Director? We've got a couple of other bills that are out there that may affect your budget at the end
Yes,
of
sir.
the end of the year. But we'll work on that as those bills move through the process.
Roger that.
Because it's really shifting dollars from one agency to another.
Got it.
But we can work with these guys on that as we go forward.
And I got some final figures we've been asked today.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna get those by Friday in. We've been asked for a couple of numbers on different aspects and we're gonna get that in.
All right.
to you.
Yes, sir. We'll have a good roll up to you.
Good deal.
Thank y'all so
All right, I'll
much.
go ahead and close
Thank
this
you very much.
hearing. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I
know where I was going with
I
that.
know.
You know where I'm going with
I know
that.
exactly.
I like
Same
that.
place I'm going with.
I like to have 5 Mississippi folks lined up against the Corps of Engineers. 'Cause I know they're gonna bring a battalion, folks.
I mean, Farm Bureau, be on